Welcome to the funnel. My name is John Shane. I'm the president of Alignment Group. This is episode number 200 of the funnel, 5 sales meetings every manager needs to master. Excited to be at number 200. That's quite a few shows. We talked about doing sort of a whole compilation, but I felt like we needed to keep the process going. We talked about sales meetings last week and why they suck. This week, we're going to focus on 5 different types of meetings. And eventually, we'll dive into each of those meetings and make suggestions on when and how you should conduct those meetings in maybe a little bit more detail. So before we get started here, head on over to alignment-group.com/the funnel and hit the subscribe button. If you subscribe, we will send you the show notes. So you don't have to write any of this stuff down. You can go for a nice long walk or a jog or a ride and listen to the podcast and hopefully get some knowledge out of it while you're doing that. But have no fear, if you subscribe, you'll get in writing exactly what it is that we talked about. Okay, today we're going to talk about the 5 different meetings: the daily debrief, coaching, forecast, pipeline, and team development. So I think in the in the book, Good to Great, there's a discussion about the stand-up meeting. I believe it's Good to Great, or it could be, actually it's the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. It's Patrick Lencioni. I think that's how you say it. It's an executive book on sort of getting your team on the same page. And they have something called the huddle, something like that, where you stand in someone's doorway and you have a 2-minute, 3-minute conversation. In the sales world, it's a little bit different, and I'll talk about that, but it goes by different names and people use different versions of that quick conversation. So I want to talk about that a little bit. When do you have the daily debrief? Now, in some cases, you have it first thing in the morning. It's a conversation about what's going to happen that day, what was done the day before, and boom, 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 in and out, right? And so we'll talk about that and what that looks like. In other cases, maybe you have a brand new rep who's new to the company, new to sales, and in a very early on developmental state of their business. So that daily debrief, yeah, it could happen in the morning. It could happen in the late afternoon after they've completed their work, and it could be a little bit longer, maybe like a 30-minute conversation about exactly what it is they were doing, why they hit the things they hit, and what worked and what didn't work, and what they're going to do tomorrow. So it kind of puts them in a position where they're planning, and you're covering the wide range of things that they did that day. You're not really getting into the nitty-gritty of sales coaching and development. You're really just talking about the activities of the day, and your role in that is to take notes as the manager and then hold them accountable to what they said they were going to do or what they didn't complete and when they have to complete it. In some cases, it's early in the morning. You're touching base with your rep maybe your reps are all over the place. You don't see them every day. It's a great way to just connect with them for a few minutes. Talk about what happened yesterday. Talk about what's going on today. Take some notes, cover those things that are important. Mostly this is really about metrics and moving the needle, getting stuff done. It's not a coaching. We'll talk about that. It's not really a development opportunity. It's about the nitty-gritty of the daily grind. And then hold them accountable for what they said they were going to do. And if for some reason they're not meeting those objectives, then you can talk about in your longer meetings, in your development meetings, in your coaching, what you can do to make that better. Or if they miss something one day, what it's going to take to make up for it the next day. It's a real nice way to stay in touch. Next is the coaching meeting. And oh, by the way, I'm going to go back and say that I will be covering these in a much deeper way over the next few weeks. I'm going to get into each of the different types of meetings. I don't know the order yet, but I'm going to kind of go through a heavier lift on them. This is just sort of a broad overview. Okay, so coaching. It's the primary role in my world and what I believe for a manager. Their primary role is to coach. You should spend a lot of time on coaching. Coaching right now, for some, is when I can get to it. And everything else gets in the way. All my meetings and stuff and fires that I have to put out are getting in the way of me coaching. It should be a focus, a primary focus for you as a manager. It should be set in stone. It should be on the calendar. Ongoing. It's a dynamic conversation about the world that we're living in. Consistent. That means every week or every 2 weeks or wherever you decide to have it. I think it should be ongoing. It should be longer. It's wrapped around the sales rep. This is where you can get custom with the sales rep. It's sales rep centric. It's based on what they need. And how do you know what they need? Well, it's based on what you've observed in the field in riding with them, how they've managed their day, their sales skill sets, all of that. When we do the assessment, the objective management group assessment, either the sales rep assessment or the sales candidate assessment, and once you hire somebody that you've given the candidate assessment, you can convert that to a full sales rep assessment. So you get a little bit more detail. That's your blueprint right there from the start. Now, it'll change over time, but this is a really great blueprint to help you outline what your sales rep needs. So coaching is a huge meeting, huge for managers to get a hold of and master. Next is the forecast meeting. And people get tied up in forecasts and they don't understand how to have the conversations. First, it's the timing. When do I have the forecast meeting? What metrics do I apply against that? Because taking their word for it depends on who you're talking to, right? They could have happy ears, as somebody used to say to me. They get real excited about something. You need metrics associated with it. Why? Because you're benchmarking back against those metrics and you're predicting the future sales. The forecast meeting you're talking about movement of that opportunity. How do I get that opportunity to move to the next level? And we're strategizing on that, and I'm coaching on that. The forecast meeting is huge. It keeps the opportunities flowing through. This is sort of the real-time business that we're getting, and we need to be on top of it to make sure that we get to our numbers individually and collectively. And this is how you do it, through a forecast meeting. And we'll take a deeper dive into these meetings. We'll take a deeper dive into the forecast meeting in the future and the coaching meetings and what that looks like. I'd say forecast is one of the most critical. People often confuse that with the pipeline meeting. Again, it's all about timing for the pipeline. Okay? When do I have the pipeline meeting? I don't think you have it as often as you have the forecast meeting, my opinion. Okay? Because the pipeline's the bigger picture. The forecast is you're zooming in. Okay, so if you look at it in terms of a funnel, the forecast is that bottom half. The pipeline's the top half. So you have to look at it from a bigger picture. So you don't need to have it as often. But you are managing the metrics around it. Again, you can't just depend on conversations. You have to know what's working. You have to know what it takes to close a deal. How many opportunities. And that's going to vary by rep. So and I mentioned in the last podcast, there's YouTube videos out there. And there's one that, the guy's saying, hey, you have to have 3 times your quota in the pipeline to hit your number. And you're not there yet, and management requires that. And the rep's saying, well, I'm already at my quota. And the manager's basically saying, you're not following company policy. And if you don't build your pipeline like that, then you're not going to hit your quarterly number. And the rep's like, well, I'm already at my quarterly number. So I'm laughing, thinking, well, maybe the quotas are off here. But it really does speak to the sort of way that we treat reps, that they're like cattle or sheep and one size fits all. There are some people that are really good. Okay? So it takes less in the pipeline to get to the number. So then you have to ask the question, well, are we satisfied with that? That's a different question, right? But are we satisfied with that? Do we want more in the pipeline so they can sell more and overachieve? Okay, but that's for a different day. The point is the metrics are important because you need to know how they're performing against those metrics and what it's going to take to keep getting to that bottom half of the funnel where they're forecasting correctly and accurately and they're hitting their numbers on a consistent basis. Because the vast majority of sales reps, a good number of them don't hit their quota. The stats are out there. So having these types of forecast pipeline coaching meetings are going to help you get there. It helps you build a long-term strategy for driving the number and driving business into the funnel. This is where you problem solve the issues in the top half of the funnel. Why don't I have enough leads? I'm going through this with somebody right now. Well, I don't have enough leads in the pipeline, but what I get, I close. Okay, that's good. That doesn't mean we need to stop here. We need to figure out how to get stuff at the top end of the pipeline. You don't have enough in there to drive the business you need to drive. So that's going to cause you problems. So again, the pipeline and the forecast are separate. And we're going to talk about that in the future, again, in future podcasts. I'll take a deeper dive. But understanding that these meetings, the debrief, the coaching, the forecasting, the pipeline, oftentimes we see them buried inside one big meeting. I would obviously you can't do the debrief and all that other stuff at the same time, but you understand what I'm talking about. I'm not sure I would do that. I'm not sure I would try to fit that in with one big group in one big meeting. So you're sitting there for 90 minutes and your part of the meeting is maybe 15 minutes. So you're sitting through everybody else's stuff. And you're on your smartphone and your laptop. By the way, shouldn't be allowed in those meetings. Put them down. What's the worst thing that can happen to you? You're talking to somebody and they're on their phone. Drives me nuts. You can ask anybody that I deal with, in business or personal. Ask my kids, put the phone down. I'm talking to you. Now, I might be exposing my age here, but I find it to be rude. No, you can't multitask. It's actually impossible. You can do two things. You can be on that and somebody could be talking and you could look up and listen for a few seconds and then go back. Sure. But you're basically splitting your ability in half and you're dumbing yourself down when you do that. So I'm off topic here, but managing these meetings in a way that gets full focus and attention of everybody in the room can be difficult. So one of the ways you do it is you restrict electronic devices or the use of them in meetings. The only time you should be interrupted is emergency. Turn off or close your laptop. Turn off your monitor. Do whatever it takes. I used to have a boss that sit across from me, be looking at his monitor. It's like, hey, I'm over here. Turn your monitor off. Or they'd answer any phone call that came in. I came out of a culture like that. Any phone call, anybody could walk in your office and talk. The door didn't exist. They just walked in. It's like the door is closed. All right, so I digressed a little bit, but what my point here is that for all of these meetings, you need to be focused and attentive, and you need to expect that from the person that you're working with. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. The next one is team development, and this is fun. You can call it whatever you want. I call it team development. You can call it whatever the heck you want to call this meeting. This is a cultural thing. This is basically getting together and saying, hey, we're going to improve as a team. We're going to do a little bit of work here, and we're going to uncover a specific issue that some of us are having or that we just seem to be running into in the field. Maybe it's our cold outreach. We're just not making the connections we used to make, and we're struggling with it. Well, let's do some research on that. Let's figure out why that's happening. Okay? Let's figure out as a team why that's happening. Let's research that. This might take a few weeks to put together. Okay? And you do it. You go out, you sit down, you do some brainstorming exercises. You have a really good conversation about some of the issues you're having. You're looking for a way to solve that problem. You've done the research to say, okay, this is legitimate. This is something that we can work on. And we document how we do it now. And then we begin to put a plan together to determine how we're going to solve that problem or what we're going to experiment with to change that. Maybe it's our cold outreach. Yeah, we're meeting people, we're connecting with them on LinkedIn, but for some reason we send an email or we call and they don't respond. Maybe we're not sending enough emails. This is a simple problem stuff, right? Because I've gone through this before. Maybe it takes, I think the average person 5 emails to respond. So I just talked to somebody about this the other night. He said to me, it was a CEO of a company, well, how do you know? How do you teach them that? I said, well, there's a lot of work in teaching that. Most of it's grassroots. I spend time with small groups or individuals and figuring out what they're doing now and then sort of putting a plan. I'm doing this with them. And I said to him, look, it took me 4 emails to get you to respond back to me. Did you find me annoying? No. Did the message resonate with you? Yes. Then why did it take 4 emails? Because I had this going on and that going on, this and this and this. I said, exactly. You have life. You're running a company. You're busy. I'm talking to you now. I can hear it. You're driving. Okay? But I didn't offend you. I didn't make you angry, but I got the connection. So I work with them to figure out what we can solve. How do we do it now? And then we put together a plan, and then we try it. And we tweak it as we go along. The idea of the team development, these are really great team exercises. It gets the whole group together, and you can do it twice a month or once a month, whatever you decide is appropriate. Once you solve it and you make some progress on it, then you can do a team function. We used to do all kinds of stuff like that. It wasn't always, most people, they think sales, it's all about drinking. Yeah, we did some of that. We'd go out for drinks or whatever. But, we'd go bowling. Duck pin bowling is a lot of fun with a sales team. There's ropes courses you can take. There's all these really kind of fun half-day things you can do to celebrate your success here. So you identified the problem as a team. You looked at improving something. You found the issue. You did some research. You documented how you do it. Now you put a plan together. You made progress. You had some success. You celebrate that success. Now, you can do that on a lot of things, on the numbers, on having a good year. But this is really wrapped around cultural. The expectation that we all succeed together. And you might even have to pull somebody from other departments in on this, depending on what the problem is. Mostly we like to keep it sales related because we're trying to sell more stuff, right? So that makes sense. So the team development meeting is a fun exercise and a growth opportunity for your team. And we'll get into the nuts and bolts of that again. I'm going to do some more in-depth podcasts on different types of meetings. But those are the meetings that I think are really, really important. Now, somebody's going to throw out this one and that one, and I'm going to say, yes, whatever works. I think sales methodology kind of is what it is. Sales process is customized. Sales meetings can be customized too. Now, there's certain fundamentals in having a good meeting that we can cover, but depending on the team makeup, the culture of the company, et cetera, you can build something that's customized to you. Head on over to the funnel, alignment-group.com/the funnel, and subscribe. That's where you can find us. We have a page on our website for that and our blog. Social media, Facebook, Twitter @ShayJohnR, LinkedIn. For some reason, I have the Google Plus one in here, back here again, even though it's not a big thing these days. Contact us, jshay@alignment-group.com. And of course, you can find us at alignment-group.com. Lots of cool stuff on the website. Thank you for subscribing. And until the next time, keep filling the funnel.